Welcome to episode 21, the 21 Savage episode. No, I'm just kidding. It's the Tim Duncan episode of the Blasting Basketballs podcast. I'm your host, Steve Gino, joined today by college basketball specialist JJ. How's it going?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, it's like an annual tradition now. Who knows how long it's going to last for, but
Looking forward to it.
Jason, what's up?
What's going on?
You're probably one
Glad
of
to
the
be
more
back.
you're probably one of the more controversial figures on the pod.
I don't know why.
Oh, I know why. Anything special going on with you?
Nothing really. Got my basement's flooding, and my dog is crippled. So, we're doing good.
Yeah, you're going to Six Flags tomorrow, right?
Yeah. I also want to mention Drew Holiday. This is the Drew Holiday episode as well.
True. KG too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was actually number 5, I remember. Yeah. So yeah, for me, just what's been going on recently. So I've actually started to play basketball a little more. As you guys know, the past few years, I kind of had to bow out of playing because my shoulder was pretty messed up. But I did some strengthening and I feel a lot better. So honestly, getting out there is just great. I mean, it was kind of emotionally like tough to stop playing for a while because that's what I did with my friends mostly, just play basketball and hang out. So yeah, it's good to be back. It feels good to play again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've ever since COVID, I've taken a break from playing ball as well. It's tough. It was like a meditation to me, just seeing the ball go through the hoop. So I'll get back out there though once things get more normal.
Yeah, JJ, have you been playing much? Because I know you play a couple sports.
Yeah, I've been playing
sports.
a lot. I started playing again. Probably I was playing at school, and then I took a little while off when I came home. Just waited for the weather to get a little bit nicer. Started playing again probably about a month ago. It's been fun. Been nice getting outside. I know we played together.
Yeah, I think you told me about how there was a point where your love for basketball just wasn't there, and then it was like rekindled. Like, do you remember that at all?
I think a little bit. But like I don't know, like past couple years, I just started playing pickup again. I played club basketball at school. That was really fun. I had a blast doing that. And ever since then, I've just wanted to play as much pickup as I can. It's really fun activity for me to do outside of work and stuff like that.
Yeah, hanging out, like it's just a great way to hang out, honestly. There's so many worse things that you could be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to jump into the main topic of the show, the Milwaukee Bucks won their first championship in 50 years. Giannis Antetokounmpo is proving the haters wrong. He received a lot of slander, especially recently with like the whole free throw situation and counting down during his free throws. So JJ, how do you feel about the Bucks kind of proving all the haters wrong and winning their first chip in 50 years?
Yeah, you got to feel great for Giannis. First and foremost, I myself I wasn't a Giannis hater, but I mean, kinda. I told all my friends at school, I said, there's no way I don't think Giannis can carry a team to the NBA Finals. I told him right before this playoffs. I was like, he's like when you need him most in the clutch, you need a guy who can, if you can't get to the rim, he can shoot. And, he still really can't shoot, but he proved that wrong. And I think I got to give a lot of credit to Budenholzer. I think this year they really took some of the pressure off Giannis by allowing Holiday and Middleton to really create their own offense at the end of games and in the fourth quarter, which opened the floor up even more for Giannis and just created a great recipe to win.
So Jason, why do you think that despite Giannis's struggles and the fact that he's not the most skilled player, why do you think he was still able to get to this point where he's a Finals MVP?
I think being 7 feet tall, helps a lot, but also just the sheer effort he puts in every day and the respect he gets from his teammates. And, people said he didn't have a bag, right? That was one of the things people were saying. But I think after that Brooklyn series, I think he saw a little bit of what's in KD's bag, and I think he grabbed a little stuff out of his bag. And I think he's so young, like in terms of development, because he just started playing when he was like 13 years old or something. So he's still learning and he's still getting better. He's still working on his shot every day. And I think throughout the playoffs, like he just got better every game. And I think that was one of the big reasons that he was able to finish in the stretch.
Yeah, 26 is a pretty young age to win a championship. Like when LeBron was 26, he lost to the Mavs. So, and Giannis kind of reminds me of Shaq in the sense that he's not the most skilled player, but because he's so physically imposing and so dominant in the paint, he kind of is the best player in the league right now. I mean, you can't really refute that. Even though I do think there's probably a couple better players, like Luka.
Yeah,
maybe
KD.
Kawhi.
I'd give KD. He's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also the thing I like about Giannis is, unlike Ben Simmons, he doesn't really shy away from shooting. Like if he has a shooting slump, he's not gonna like shy away from taking shots. Like he still takes threes, he still takes jumpers. He's not afraid. He doesn't shy away from the moment at all. That's one of my favorite things about him. And one thing that I hate, I want to get your guys' take on this. I hate when people try to say that this is an asterisk championship. You know, like I understand that there's a lot of what ifs, there's a lot of injuries, but you're kind of discrediting all the work that these guys put in, the stuff that we don't see behind the scenes. I just hate when you don't really take into consideration like everything these guys go through to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and
yeah.
The asterisk is because of the injuries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Giannis, his knee basically almost exploded in that Atlanta series, and he came back, so that almost cancels that out.
Yeah, I feel like just injuries are a part of the game. Like not every player is going to play 82 games through a season, so you can't really expect every single player to play an entire playoffs like each year. I mean, like every single year, players go down with injuries, so discrediting it due to injuries, I think, is just a silly thing to do.
Yeah, injuries are such a tough topic because like you just wish they didn't exist, but like you said, they are a part of the game, and you kind of just got to go with it. I mean, sure, there was a condensed season, and I guess you can blame it on that. But there's so many what ifs with these playoffs. Like, what if AD didn't get injured? What if Kyrie never sprained his ankle? What if Kawhi didn't tear his ACL?
What if KD's foot wasn't on the line?
Yeah, that's a good point. What if Giannis didn't hurt his knee? You got to point out too that once Giannis went down, the Bucks held the fort down. Like,
what if Jaylen Brown didn't break his wrist?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if the Celtics beat the Nets, that would have been amazing. But
I'm kidding.
Yeah. You're hoping that going forward, the Celtics can show a little bit more fight in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
We can actually jump into the Celtics a little later on, but especially when we talk about the draft. But I do want to keep talking about the Bucks and the Suns. So one thing that you do have to mention is that the Suns were a sub 500 team just last year. And then with the addition of Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, they became a championship contender. They became a finals team. So they have a really nice mix of youth and veteran leadership. And do you think that they're going to be back in the mix next year, or do you think this was kind of a one-off season for them, JJ?
I think they will be back in the mix next year, especially with the emergence. Like, I think Ayton took a huge step forward. I think Booker really benefited from having like a true pass-first point guard guy who like could really see the floor. Because I mean, in years past, if you look at who they had at point guard, I mean, like a couple years ago, they were playing with like Tyler Johnson at point guard, and Booker spent a lot of time playing the one. I really think if they can, because I don't know what Chris Paul's plans are. I know he declined his player option, but I think if they can like get another good point guard, I think they will be back. I know they still have a lot of guys under contract. It's pretty much their entire rotation except Chris Paul and Cameron Payne, but you never know what they're going to do with a guy like Mikal Bridges, because I mean he has 1 year left on his deal. I don't know if they're going to be able to pay him, and they might want to try and cash out and get some value with a trade if they don't plan on paying him. So I mean, you got to see what their front office wants to do, if they want to go for it and try and keep the roster together even with expiring contracts, or if they try and rebuilds their a little bit, keep their talent, and try and find guys that they can keep under contract for longer.
Yeah, I actually really like Campaign as a
Mhm.
potential future point guard.
Yeah.
He's brought a lot to the table, and when Chris Paul was out, he dropped like 30 and 10. He played well.
I love
Chris
him
Paul out.
as an energy guy off the bench. I don't know if
Yeah.
him starting how well that would go, because he's like one of those guys, like no matter what's going on, he just thinks he's the best player on the court, and like sometimes that's like really helpful, because if your offense is stagnant, you can always give him the ball and he'll get to the rack. He might not finish all the time, but just having someone who can get your offense going when it's stuck, I think, is really important.
Yes, like a spark plug off the bench type guy.
And Jason, how much importance do you put into the fact that this was kind of a homegrown ring? Like Giannis and Middleton didn't go somewhere else. They kind of stood pat.
I think that's the most important part. I think, like Giannis said, it's easy. Like he could go to a super team and just do his part, and he could win a couple rings easy. But when it's homegrown and you do it in your city, you do it with the teammates you've had for the last decade, it's something more special about that for sure.
Yeah, it's deeper. Like 7 years ago, Giannis and Middleton were on a team that was like 15 and 67, and they kind of stuck with it, and they didn't. They persevered through it all. And when you do that, it just creates more of an emotional bond with your teammates. And when you actually do get to that point where you win a championship, it just feels that much better.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like they let the genie out of the bottle. It feels like now that Giannis has won, that they're going to reload and they're going to be more confident coming into next year. And, everybody says, oh, well, if Kyrie didn't get hurt, the Nets probably would have swept them. But now that they won, I feel like it's going to be a different story next year.
Yeah, you're going to have a target on your back. And it's important to mention that the Bucks didn't have an easy path to this championship. I mean, they came back from 0-2 twice. I mean, they beat the Nets by a hair. Like, if KD's foot wasn't on the line.
Yeah, that dang foot, man.
KD made some ridiculous shots down the stretch.
Yeah, he was incredible. He was the best player in the world, like Giannis said.
Yeah.
And people gave Giannis shit for saying that, but like that's just being humble. Like that's just being honest. Like at that moment in time, KD was the best player in the world. Practically
Yeah, I
had
do
a
think
50-point triple-double.
I do think that you shouldn't say that in the middle of the series. You should say it after. But I understand he's like a really genuine person. Like he's a really kind guy.
Yeah.
You don't see that often nowadays. I do want to talk about some signature plays, especially with Giannis. He had a chase down block. He had that play where he got up on Booker, and then Booker threw the lob to Ayton, and then Giannis turned around, took a jump and blocked Ayton's alley-oop. I mean, that was ridiculous. He's probably the only guy on earth that can do that.
That was awesome. That was unbelievable. I mean, watching it live, you just assumed it was a bucket, because I mean, Booker had both his guy on him, and then Giannis came forward off the pick too. I mean, Ayton was literally wide open, and to have Giannis just come flying through the air to block that, it was just completely unexpected. And there was a tweet I saw. It's like Giannis is like the only guy who's able to defend the alley and the oop. Like he pretty much defended the pass and then defended the shot too. It was pretty funny. But yeah, it was also crazy to see like Giannis, like, I mean, you really look at him as like a combo four, like not really a combo four, but like a four. I mean, he started his career off playing the three. He played some time at the five in the playoffs, but like he made Ayton look small. And like Ayton's like a true center, and it's just crazy to see that, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys thought the same, but it really stood out to me.
Yeah, and I thought the Suns went as Ayton went, like DeAndre Ayton played really well in those series prior to the Bucks series. I mean, his offensive rebounding, his finishing around the rim. I mean, he had the best field goal percentage in playoff history at one point. I don't know if he still does, but the level that he was playing at compared to how he played in the regular season, it was just such a dramatic jump.
Yeah.
And I think without Ayton, they wouldn't have gone into the finals.
Yeah, I think he's a great fit for like the way the NBA is going, like having an athletic center who's still great around the rim, can switch on a pick and roll. I mean, he was covering Giannis for most of the series. I think having a guy like that on your roster is a huge benefit.
Yeah, he's more of a conventional big man, but it pays off on a team like that.
He low-key has a shot too, mid-range.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's big.
Yeah, like you don't think it's going in, but it goes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that play that Holiday had where he ripped the ball out of Booker's hands in the clutch and brought it down in transition. And you would think that in that situation, he would hold it and wait to get fouled. So it takes some real stones to throw the alley-oop to Giannis in that situation, and it paid off. I mean, that was such a big play that people put "Father stretch my hands" over it.
Yeah, that was iconic. I mean, that was the series-winning play. You know.
I did not think his infield pass at all, and when he did, I was like, "What is he doing?"
That was
and then it worked out. It was awesome.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, he said Giannis was screaming the whole way down the floor. His eyes got big, and he was like, "Oh."
Yeah, that was just pure basketball instinct. You know, that's pure basketball.
Yeah, and the additions of Holiday, Portis, Tucker, you got to think those were the main reasons why the Bucks were able to kind of break through that wall. Especially Holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, yep.
Yes. Holiday. Some nights he was like the worst offensive player of all time, but he would make up for it on the defensive end. And Game 5, he made up for it on the offensive end. But Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, I think they were huge on the offensive rebounds, and that was a major key in them winning the series as well.
Yeah, the motor that they play with, it's essential, especially in the playoffs. Like rebounding, I've noticed rebounding is so crucial in the playoffs. Like it can really break your back when it's in the clutch. The team grabs an offensive rebound, they reset. It can definitely demoralize you.
And that's what matters is those little things. Like Pat Connaughton had 0 points, but 8 rebounds in Game 6. You know.
Yeah.
And he's a role player, and that's all you can ask for sometimes.
And we have to mention Middleton, his play in the clutch especially. I know there's a narrative going around that he's the real Batman on the team and Giannis is the Robin.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily
Perkins said that, right?
Yeah, I actually like Perk. Like I don't necessarily agree with that, but Middleton's had some moments, especially like Game 3 against the Hawks. He completely took over in the fourth quarter, scored like 20 points. He gets into these zones where it's like the defender's invisible to him. Like, I really like Middleton, even though he's not the most flashy player.
Steve, I know you probably know. Jason, I don't know what team you root for regularly, but Steve, I know you've probably seen this. Like
Sonics.
But Middleton is just like, you always like the side of him that came out in this playoffs. Like, I feel like it only used to ever come out against the Celtics. Like, he used to just kill the Celtics all the time. So I've like, people are always talking about he's inconsistent. I was like, and I've always been like, well, I know what he can do. And to see it finally step out on a national stage it's pretty cool to see. I thought he played really well down the stretch, especially when like Giannis could like, I mean, there would be possessions where Giannis wouldn't touch the ball. It'd be all Middleton, and he'd still be able to create a shot that was like going in most of the time. And to be able to have that, to feed off that with Giannis was just, I think, very important for how they like played down the stretch, and it really helped them out.
Yeah. He was the closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. I would say he's Batman in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Yeah. And he was also inconsistent at times.
Yeah.
Kind of like Holiday.
Still inconsistent.
But yeah, he showed up when it mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that matters.
It's just more consistent than he has been in years past, but still not to a level he's like an elite player in the NBA.
But I think
very, very good.
Yeah, I think they are going to be elite next year, because I think when you win a championship, I think that does something to your game. Like it gives you like that extra confidence, like it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember Tatum said that once he made the All-Star game, he kind of felt like he was finally there, and like it kind of triggered something in him mentally to kind of play at this level like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's like
yeah,
an evolution.
the mental aspect is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
With life in general, not even basketball. But so isn't it funny how Torrey Craig was going to win a champion or a ring no matter who won because he played for the Bucks earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's just. I don't know how it would feel even like you lose the NBA Finals and then you get a ring in the mail and you're like, well,
yeah, I'd probably send it back. If I was him, I'd send it back.
No, I'd sell it on eBay.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like they're just rubbing in your face even more.
Yeah. No, it was honestly poetic how Giannis was having struggles from the free throw line literally all playoffs. And then when they need him the most, game 6 NBA Finals closeout game, he goes 17 of 19 from the free throw line, drops 50 points, the highest ever in an NBA Finals closeout game.
Mm-hmm.
It was just
Legendary.
amazing to see his persistence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's admirable. It really is.
Yeah. It was poetic is the right word.
So do you guys have anything else you want to talk about with the Suns in particular? Anything about the Suns? I know the emergence of Devin Booker as a playoff performer was a big story because there's always a notion going around that some guys are just like empty buckets. They don't really contribute to winning. So when you see a guy like Devin Booker who has dropped 70 points before, consistently perform in the playoffs, he was the best player on the floor at times in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Yeah, I think Devin Booker was probably the best player on the Suns this series. And I think actually Chris Paul kind of folded a little bit.
Yeah.
People are trying to say he's injured, but I didn't see any injury. And, I've always kind of disliked Chris Paul a bit. That might be controversial. Who knows? But just like all those State Farm commercials, I just see his face too much. I'm like, I don't want him to win. And Giannis he seems more pure of heart. It almost felt like a good versus evil kind of situation, and I think the good guys won.
Yeah, I'll always remember Chris Paul for being like probably the greatest point guard of the 2010s. Like, I can't think of a greater point guard than him in the last decade.
Yeah, and it's like you saw Patrick Patterson said karma's a bitch on his Twitter. I don't know what that was referring to, but I think Chris Paul might have ruffled a few feathers with those Clippers over there.
Yeah,
I'm sure CP3 talks a lot.
Yeah, and Beverly, I don't think he pushed him like that for no reason, But still, that was dirty. I'm not.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that, but I don't think it was for no reason.
Yeah, that was an aggressive push. It was.
Yeah.
JJ, who'd you root for in the playoffs?
I mean, I was rooting pretty much for the Suns out of the Western Conference pretty much the whole time. I think they're just fun to watch. One of my friends at school is a Suns fan, interestingly enough, and so he used to talk about them to me all the time. I really like the way Devin Booker plays. I think he's fun to watch. I know Chris Paul he is pretty annoying, especially when you watch him. He flops a lot, and then guys do the same thing to him. You always see him complaining. But I was rooting. I mean, he's been in the league a long time. He's a legend. I was rooting for him to finally get a ring. Obviously, it didn't happen, but I still enjoyed the run that they went on. I thought it was really fun to watch. And out of the East, I mean, honestly, like once the Celtics got knocked out, I wasn't really rooting for anybody. I mean, it's teams you play all the time, like every year. So, I mean, I always get frustrated with them a lot, like all the other teams, especially Milwaukee fans, Sixers fans, definitely. Not a big Trae Young guy, so it's like just rooting for good basketball at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, my last name is Papa Constantino, so I was just rooting for Giannis just because he has a similar last name to mine. So.
All right, boys. We pretty much covered everything with the finals, so I want to jump to the NBA draft. So JJ, I'm not exactly a huge college basketball guy. I don't watch that often. So before we actually jump into it, I just want to ask you, what draws you to the game of college basketball? Because myself, the reason why I don't watch it that often is because of the player turnover and how often the players kind of leave.
Yeah.
Like, I like getting attached to players. So that's one main reason why I don't watch it. But what draws you to the game of college basketball?
Honestly, for me, a lot of times it's like the storylines that come out of college basketball because, I mean, unlike the NBA, there's 120, like higher than that, like 100-something Division I schools. You know, you have like a 68-team March Madness tournament at the end of the year, and you just get to see teams go on special runs that like you really wouldn't consider happening ever. And like the upsets are so fun to watch. And even at the big schools, like one of my favorite teams to watch this past year was Arkansas under Eric Musselman, who was their new coach. They just played like a really fun style of basketball, which probably, I mean, a lot of times doesn't translate to the NBA. Like they just play like pretty much a 5-guard set a lot of the times, and would play like super intense defense. And you can't really get away with that in the NBA just because guys can simply take over the game. Like no matter how tight you are playing D, like give the ball to KD, like you can't really do much about it. But that, and then like it's fun watching a lot of the young guys and then like seeing where they go afterwards. I don't know. I've just always been drawn to it. I think a lot of the storylines that come out of it are great, and it's just something I've always loved.
Is there like one school that kind of has an edge over all the others in terms of producing NBA talent, or is it kind of an even field in that sense?
I mean, there's like a pretty. I wouldn't say there's one school. I'd say there's like a top 10, 5, somewhere around there that have been getting like most of the one and done talents who have been going pretty high. But
Blue Bloods.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually been pretty balanced. I mean, like Duke, Kentucky, UNC, not so much in the past couple of years. Michigan's always good. Schools like those, SEC schools, Big Ten schools, ACC, Florida State, stuff like that. They're always like really good. I wouldn't say that no one like after the one and dones, there isn't like a huge difference in NBA like production talent, in my opinion. I guess some fans of schools might argue with that, but yeah, after like whoever gets the one and done's pretty much is going to have the most NBA talent, and there's always like not a huge number of them because there's only 60 picks in the draft, so they do kind of scatter all over the place.
Yeah. So I'm not as interested talking about like who's going to go 2, who's going to go 3, who's going to go 4. I'm really interested in talking about what are some players that you think are going to make an impact in the coming years and maybe even an immediate impact. Jason, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I have some low-key players that I don't understand why they're not like lottery picks. Luka Garza, 1. He might not even be picked. Like he's projected like 2nd round. Like I don't understand that. He was like the best player in all of Iowa history. So, and Drew Timme, I don't know where he's projected, but I'm a Gonzaga guy, and so I was watching Timme, and but I want to hear JJ what you think about Garza.
So the thing about Garza is he is insanely slow. Like insanely slow, and you can get away with that in college because it sounds kind of weird that he's slow, but he plays on a fast-paced team, and so they would push the ball all the time, and they'd either shoot a 3 or throw it to him in the post, and he is unstoppable in the post. You don't get many guys his size at the college level. I mean, like guys that size are usually, if they're good, they're one and done. If they're not good, they're staying in college. So he would get guys. The only guy who could really cover him was Kofi Cockburn. I mean, in the Big Ten, like Kofi Cockburn from Illinois. Mm-hmm. So he was just dominant offensively. They fed him the ball all the time. The issue was on the defensive end, where he's great at defending big. He's perfectly fine, but his feet are so slow, where if you get him on a pick and roll, he's dead. He's just dead 100% of the time. He moves like Boban.
Okay, good to know.
Which you wouldn't expect with his numbers, but it's like he's a real liability on the defensive end.
He kind of reminded me of Jokic a little bit, just the way he plays.
Yeah, it's just I mean, if he is able to show any sort of defensive ability, like at all, then he'll be great because he can step out and shoot. I'm not sure about his passing ability. Honestly,
Right.
I'm not sure, but he's great in the post, great rebounder. But yeah, it's just the defense. It's literally all defense.
Yeah. He should at least go second round though. Like if he goes undrafted, that'd be.
So someone's got to take a shot on him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's too good offensively to let him, I think, go through all 60 picks.
Yeah.
So just from a more casual perspective, so I don't know a lot of players, but I hear about a guy named Cade Cunningham. So why do you think that he is the consensus #1 overall pick?
He's very fun to watch. He played on a decent Oklahoma State team. They had a losing record the year before he came, but he's a 6'8" guy who great passer, great shooter, and he can just take over the game. And he was really fun to watch. They're another one of those teams that plays like a high pressing defensive style play, and he's good defensively as well, but offensively they're not that good. And to watch them go up against teams like Baylor or like Texas, teams that are always pretty good, especially defensively, and he can just take over a game by himself and will his team to victory. It's something you don't really see that often at the college level, and it's going to translate quickly to the NBA, and he'll be able to make an immediate impact.
And just to mention, he used to be a quarterback in high school, and that translates as a playmaker. Same with Jalen Suggs. I think it should be 1 Cade, 2 Suggs, but Suggs seems like he's going like 4th pick maybe or something. So
yeah, that second pick is I think where it gets interesting because like Cunningham's I think definitely going 1, and then two is Mobley, Green, or Suggs. I've seen all over.
Yeah.
So in terms of like translation to the NBA, what do you look for in players in college, and who are a few players that you think will translate well to the NBA almost maybe immediately?
I can say who I don't think will translate is Ayo Dosunmu in Illinois. I just think he doesn't show up when it's a big game. Like I saw him against Baylor and in the tournament. I don't know. That's what I'll say.
He did. I love Ayo. I watch a lot of the games. I think he obviously did not turn up against Baylor in the tournament, but I think he'll translate pretty well. I think he's a better athlete than people give him credit for, and I think that's one of the things I look for right off the bat: athleticism and then offensive skill set. I think if you can combine those, I think you have a pretty good chance of being good in the NBA. Just because you can get away with being not a great athlete in college, but I think it's much harder to do that in the NBA. I mean, obviously you still see guys do it, but that itself is going to take a while to adjust. And then, like same thing, vice versa. You see athletes get away with not being great offensively in college, and that can translate to teams in the NBA. Like if you're on a contending team where they're not looking for you to score right off the bat, you're maybe looking for like a 3-and-D guy, or even just like a defensive guy who's like your 4th option. I think that helps in the NBA. But guys who are athletes in college but don't show that offensive skill set at all, I think tend to struggle in the NBA as well and seem to get frustrated and bounce out of the league pretty quickly.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I think I said last year after the finals before Giannis signed his contract that if he signs with the Bucks, he'll never win a championship. So
last year, I remember I came and talked about the draft, and I said Aaron Nesmith was going to be an immediate impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually kind of the opposite. Like as the season went on, he started to produce a bit more.
What he did at the end of the season was what I thought he was going to do immediately, because I was talking like a 3-and-D guy. He's a great shooter, athlete. I think that I'd be able to shoot threes and play D. Nah, it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So is Cunningham the guy that you think is going to make the biggest impact right away?
Most definitely, especially considering he's going to like a team like Detroit, where he's probably going to be the #1 option right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he'll be the best fantasy player, but But I honestly think Suggs is like the best winner. You know, I might be biased because I'm a Gonzaga guy, but he makes the right plays and he has a shot. There's really no holes in his game as far as I can see, and he can develop into a special player.
I think he has the potential to develop really well as well. I think it just depends.
And he has that it factor too. I think that game-winning shot against UCLA. Sorry to interrupt, but that game-winning shot, like, that showed me, like, oh, he's the guy. You know. Mm-hmm.
I think it also depends a lot on where he goes, because I agree with you. I think he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses in his game, and I'd say maybe the only weakness he has, and it might not even be a weakness, is the fact that he played with Kispert and Timmy. So he didn't really, like, most of these guys going early in college, you see them, like, being the guys on their college team. And he wasn't even the guy on his team. So you don't really know exactly how good he's going to be when, like, he needs to be the first offensive option. But if he falls to, like, the fourth pick and goes to Toronto, I think that's, like, a perfect situation for him, where he can, obviously he's going to, like, step in and play a lot of minutes, but they have guys, like, other good offensive guys, and it will give him time to develop offensively.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Toronto, one guy that I've seen that might go to Toronto is Jalen Green, the guy who took the unconventional route and went to the G League instead of college, right?
Yeah.
So, JJ, what do you think are some of the pros and cons of doing that instead of going to college?
So I think it would have been a very good route for kids to take. I don't know about anymore, because now that college athletes are getting paid through name, image, and likeness. But I thought it was a good option for athletes to take if they wanted to get paid, like, right off the bat, maybe, like, needed to help their families. It's also definitely a higher level of competition and more realistic to NBA play. But the issue, obviously, with this past year was COVID. They didn't play that many games. I didn't see him play at all this past year. I've only seen him play in high school. I know they had, like, 8 games in that tournament that was on ESPN. I didn't get to watch any of them. But going forward, I think that path is only going to grow. And I think it could be a great development for guys who are looking to get right into NBA play, as opposed to the college game, which is definitely a little bit different. But we'll see how it turns out. I mean, this is the first year they've done it. So I'm interested to see how he looks right off the bat as compared to, like, other college guys getting drafted in similar spots.
Yeah, we've seen the benefits of playing in professional leagues before you go to the NBA, like with Luka Doncic. Luka's a guy that I think is the best player in the league right now. So
it's also I mean, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because I mean, you have LaMelo, but you also have guys like RJ Hampton played in the Australian League with LaMelo, and he didn't have a great rookie year. I think he fell after his season in the Australian League. Like, it takes a toll on guys mentally, like, living across the world as, like, an 18-year-old kid. Obviously, it's not going to be the same for guys that played in the G League, but still making that jump from high school to professional level without, like, that 1 year of, like, college with more structure in between, I think is still a big jump that people need to consider that aspect when looking at these prospects.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else you'd like to touch on? Maybe a little bit of Celtics?
Well, I had
let's talk Celtics.
I had a couple of sleepers as well that I wanted to mention. I thought, just throw some predictions out here in the off chance that they're right, and I can just claim it later on. Just be like, have my proof. But 2 guys I really liked, both from Auburn. Sharif Cooper. He was injured most of the year. He's a one and done guy, point guard. A lot of player comps I've seen of, like, Rondo. Not a great shooter, super explosive, great playmaker. I really like watching him. I think if he can figure out a little bit of a shot, he's going to be a very good player. He's projected late first, early second. He's really fun to watch. I think he might struggle right off the bat, but once he's able to figure it out even a little bit, his athleticism is insane. And then another guy from Auburn, JT Thor, reminds me honestly a little bit. It's like a huge jump. He's also a early second, late first round guy, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Giannis. Huge frame. He's 6'9", big wingspan, okay 3-point shooter, super athletic, and he also picked up the game late as well. He's still super raw, but he's one of those guys where I think he has high ceiling, low floor. I think he's either going to be very good, or I could see him out of the league in a couple of years. And then my last guy, probably late lottery pick, Moses Moody from Arkansas, another one and done guy, very good defensively, very athletic, great shooter. I think he's going to make an impact right off the bat, and I think his only weakness himself is being able to create his own shot, and I think being in the NBA should help him a little bit, but I think he does have the ability to do that. So I think he's going to be very good as well. Those are my guys.
Okay. My 3 underrated is going to be Drew Timme, Luka Garza, and James Bouknight.
Oh, I like Bouknight as well. He's good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, so just to touch on the Celtics quickly, maybe in a little bit of the draft. Do you think the draft is going to be significant for them, or not really?
What pick do they have?
45.
Oh, yeah, not really. Unless they get Garza, maybe, or who knows?
Yeah, I mean, second round guys in the NBA, it's very tough for them to make an immediate impact. I mean, unless they trade up, I kind of doubt it being big for the Celtics, but it's also super hard to predict where who's still going to be there this early on in that stage, because at that point in the second round, guys teams are taking draft and stash guys. Teams are taking teams evaluations of guys are all over, but you never know. Second round, I'd like to see them honestly take a guy that they think maybe has a shot of a huge upside, a do or die guy, huge upside, low floor, and maybe just see if they can find something.
It just screams Garza to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I think if they can move big, then yeah, but otherwise, logjam at the big.
So just to touch on the kind of front office overhaul that they had, Danny Ainge is no longer the GM, and Ime Udoka is now the head coach. So these changes provide a breath of fresh air, definitely. And we kind of saw Brad Stevens' impact right away with the Kemba Walker trade. Isn't it kind of funny that you go from playing with the guy a couple weeks ago to getting traded by him? It kind of shows that Brad was thinking about it for a while, honestly.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I got a sense that, and he definitely wanted out himself. I think the trade is I like the trade for the Celtics. I like the trade for him as well. I hope he's able to rebuild his value in Oklahoma City, and I hope he's able to obviously move on from there and go to a team where his skill set more suits what they're trying to do. So obviously he wasn't the best fit with the Celtics.
Yeah,
How do you feel about
Chris Paul role?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Moses Brown?
I like Moses Brown a lot. Very big, great rebounder. He's super raw too. He's only played. This was his second year in the NBA, but his first year was on a 2-way deal, so he barely played in the NBA. He shows great flashes. The issue is a little injury prone, and then it's tough. It's gonna be tough to have him on. I don't think you can put him and Rob on the court together. They're both too big, so can't shoot.
Yeah, very raw.
Yeah.
But double machine so far.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, range. I've noticed that whenever a player lights up the Celtics, we usually try to trade for him. He had 23 points, 20 rebounds against us in a game, so it's pretty impressive. So jumping on to our next or last topic of the episode, Space Jam 2. So just to speak about my experience with the movie, I honestly had a great time. Maybe because it was due to going back to movie theaters for the first time in 2 years. But honestly, I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, when you watch a movie like that, you kind of have to keep in mind the target audience and also the context of the film and like. But again, the movie theater experience was definitely a huge thing for me. Like movie theaters to me, I love the atmosphere. I love that it feels like an escape almost. Um, but just talking about the film, JJ, what was your kind of impressions and how did you watch it? It was from home, right?
Yeah, I watched. I had. It was on HBO Max. I just watched it on there. I watched it with my little brother. But I liked it as well. I thought it was pretty entertaining. Obviously, like I'm not the target audience. It's more for kids younger than me. But I thought it was really entertaining. I thought they did a good job. I enjoyed it as well, even though I didn't even go to a theater. I thought they did a pretty good job with it, especially considering the fact LeBron's not a very good actor. But I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it.
What about you, Jason?
It was fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the most thought-provoking movie in the world, but it's fun. The animation, the high-budget animation, you can't go wrong. And it was nice to see the Looney Tunes. And, the writing and the acting, could be better, but it's fun. It's worth the watch.
Yeah, I have a coworker that grew up on the original Space Jam, and he keeps nagging me to go watch the original because I told him I watched the second one, and he was like, "Oh, the original's way better. You got to watch it." And like, I might get around to it at some point, but like, this was kind of my Space Jam. Like, LeBron is the best player I've ever seen, I've ever watched. So like, honestly, I really enjoyed the film. And how did you guys feel about the fact that LeBron's family didn't play any roles in the movie? Did you think that was weird at all?
I kind of understood it. I think it had a little to do with they started filming and the actors were obviously picked before like the NCAA name, image, and likeness change. So I think it was kind of impossible to put his sons in the movie just in case they wanted to play like college athletics at a later point, because you can't make any money before you go and do that off your name and image at that point. So I think once they weren't able to get his sons, like his kids, into the movie, I think it made sense to probably just get a real actress for his wife as well. So I guess it made sense to me, but it still would have been cool to see his kids in it. But
yeah. Jason, did you buy that those were his kids? Like, did you buy it?
I don't know if I bought it, but I knew it. Like, I assumed it. But
I actually
it felt a little weird though.
Yeah.
But,
I thought Dominic was actually a good actor for his age, especially the video game, The Genius.
I did think about it a couple times. I was like, these aren't his kids.
Yeah, no, I thought about it too. I was like, this is a little weird.
And I thought it was just weird, like how he was like an asshole dad.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have, and it didn't make sense the way he was an asshole, but I feel like they were trying to find a way to like make this like heartwarming story where he turns into a good dad at the end. I feel like they could have done that a little better, but you just got to suspend your disbelief and rock with it.
I also thought the way it ended when he apologized for being like an asshole dad was kind of weird. When he was like, "Sorry, I was being an asshole, but like I had to grind when I was little. You don't. Like you're not grinding, but it's okay." And it was just like, oh, that's like not really the message.
Yeah. It was just so corny. And then at the end with the video game camp, like,
yeah, when he took the basketball to the E3 camp, I was like, what are you gonna do with that? Like, what are you gonna do with that?
And then Bugs Bunny showed up after he's supposed to be dead. That kind of pissed me off. Like, you're not supposed to come back to life.
You're LeBron's kid. There's only one basketball camp you can go to. Start another.
Hey, Bugs Bunny's a tune. Tunes never die.
Spoiler alert.
The Algae Rhythm guy, I thought he was pretty cool too. I actually enjoyed his role. I thought he played it pretty well. It was kind of interesting too. Like in the middle of the movie, he played like a father role to Dominic that LeBron never really did. He supported Dominic in his in what he actually wanted to do. You know, that video game creation where LeBron didn't. So it was interesting for me to see the algorithm guy actually play like a father figure to him. I thought about it during the movie. I was like,
Yeah, I thought Don Cheadle did a good job playing algorithm. I thought that was a good character. Terrible coach though. I would have just done, if I was him, just that Dame time every single time. That was insufferable. He did it once.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm joking.
yeah, and of course the final score was like 1040 to 1039.
I get it was like a video game and everything, but it was still a little frustrating to me that like the score was just like completely random based on how the play went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty abstract.
Yeah, it was just like, well, let's see how much that is. And you got to look up the scoreboard. You don't really know until the play's over.
Yeah, if I wasn't as big of a basketball fan as I am, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much as I did. But
Yeah.
I also thought during the Porky Pig freestyle, I thought Dame Lillard should have came in, did a little bit of freestyle as well.
yeah, that was like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, they put his song in there too, though. That's probably why it was like, if you put my song in, I'll be in your movie.
You remember that moment where LeBron was like, "Dad, dab."
Oh my God, that was the corniest shit ever.
Oh man. But yeah, with the game at the end, like you knew LeBron's team was gonna turn it around somehow. But I was actually like thinking about like, oh, how are they gonna make this like turn around? Because they were down 1,000. They were down 1,000 at halftime. You remember when they were saying like Michael Jordan was gonna come and help him out?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I was actually thinking that they were gonna make Michael Jordan like take over. Like I thought they were gonna disrespect LeBron like that, but I was like, no way. This movie's like absolutely like adoring LeBron, like worshiping LeBron. No way they're gonna do that. Yeah, of course it was Michael B. Jordan.
Yep.
I had somebody tell me that they looked at the cast before the movie, so they already knew when that moment came what was gonna happen. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I didn't see it coming, but I liked it.
Yeah, but I thought the movie like tried to give this message of like you can't like force people to do what you want them to. Like you kind of just gotta let them be who they are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty easy theme to see, but
I want to shout out Daffy Duck. I think he was the funniest Looney Tune.
yeah,
I was getting pissed off like Bugs Bunny early in the movie. He was just making it all about himself. He's like, LeBron's like, I need these guys, and he's like, well, I just want to get my friends.
yeah. I like how they traveled through all the different universes. That was pretty cool.
I liked a lot of like the HBO references as well, like references like Mad Max or Game of Thrones a couple times. I thought those were pretty cool. I can't remember all of them. There's definitely more that I'm missing.
Yeah,
Rick and Morty made a
Yeah.
surprise appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Are they even a part of the Warner Brothers universe, or that was just like that was random? Aren't they Adult Swim?
Yeah, I know shows on HBO. I don't know.
Okay.
Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is a huge
Yeah.
Conglomerate.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was like Wonder Woman, King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much. But yeah, have you guys watched the original?
Yeah.
I did it back in the day. I don't know if I remember it too well though.
I watched it a few times. I watched it when I was little as well, like when I was younger. Then more times than that. As I've grown older.
Do you recommend it?
The original? Yeah, it's fun to watch. It's like kind of similar. It's a goofy movie, but you get to see that the original Space Jam has more than just Jordan in it. It's a little storyline makes a little bit more sense. I mean, it's a movie about it's a Looney Tunes NBA crossover. It's not going to make a ton of sense, but the storyline I thought and that was pretty clear. Like we need to beat the Monstars to get our talents back, as opposed to like we need to beat them or everyone dies, and we don't know how much each point is worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
one of my pet peeves in movies is when the characters like act like complete idiots just to move the story along. I don't know if that was necessarily the case in Space Jam, but just in general, when that happens in a movie, it kind of pisses me off. Like, have you seen The Quiet Place Part 2?
No.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't be worth.
I've seen it in a bunch of movies, though. I have.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It kind of has to happen, though, low key.
I don't know. I feel like the best movies is where like it makes sense. You know, where the characters don't have to act like complete idiots, where this would never happen in real life.
Yeah, because then you don't have to suspend your disbelief as much, you know?
Right. Those are my favorite movies.
Yeah, I actually think doing like movie reviews is a good idea for a podcast. So like maybe later on, because at this point we just do strictly basketball, but it'd be fun to jump to other things too.
True. Fight Club.
Yeah, I mean that was episode 21, guys. Touch on some good
stuff,
some good topics. Yeah.
Was I controversial this time?
I think you actually did a pretty good job. You didn't like smoke a joint during the pod or anything, so that's
okay.
A step in the right direction. JJ, did you touch on all the college basketball stuff you wanted to?
Yeah, definitely. I might have gone a little too far in depth. I know I was talking a little bit by myself for a while, but I love college basketball. I think that showed.
Oh, I think that's needed.
Yeah.
Kind of have to draw that connection to yourself too.
You know your stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, boys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, and that was episode 21, the Tim Duncan episode.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.